Hello, I'm George Wang, Chief Marketing Officer with Peterson Technology Partners. And today we have Kevin Glynn, who I've known for many, many years, going back when he was a CIO at AM Castle and then the CIO at DSC Logistics. Kevin, thank you for being here today.
George, it's great to be here. Good to see you again. And I'm sorry we can't do this in person, but this is the next best thing.
So one of the things that I know that you're also doing is you are adjunct for Northwestern University, if I'm not mistaken.
Actually, the course I teach at Northwestern is in the Masters of Information Technology program, and it's the capstone course for the second year master's students. And so what we try to do in that course is talk about both the practical things that are coming on right now. So let's take an example of a 5G. So there's a lot of engineering work coming out of both Northwestern and everywhere else. And the students will at Northwestern take some wireless technology courses and so forth. So they get the grounding in the engineering level. And then when you come to my class to say, okay, 5G is emerging, it's commercially available. What will you do with it as a leader? What's the use case? How do you make money? What's the ROI? So when you go work with universities, you see this great foundational technology training that you get from them. And then to some extent, it's up to you to find the business case for those things. But by engaging in dialogue with the universities, you really can find a good path forward in terms of how to use the emerging technology. In some cases, it may not apply. It's just very interesting work. In other cases, you're like, that's actually absolutely what we want to talk about. Maybe I'll talk about an example. A year ago, I spent a whole morning on a whiteboard with a professor talking about how we get integration to autonomous robots and how the robots are learning using AI algorithms. It was a fantastic discussion, right? It took me in all these different directions I hadn't thought of. Didn't come up with a pure technical solution, but it just broadened your mind to how you might solve the problem in different approaches. At the same time, the professor loved it because I kept coming back to practical reality. And he was like, oh, I didn't know that. Really? That's how the world works? I would encourage people, if they can, engage with the university systems. And in the Chicago area, there's tons of great university talent that you can talk to. Take advantage of it. And it's not just at Northwestern, it's throughout the whole Chicagoland.
That's a great thought and great perspective. Now, you hit a word that really resonates with me is use cases, because so often in terms of how we approach and deploy technology, we really have to think through the business use cases. And I know that you were also a past Chicago CIO of the Year Innovation winner. And certainly you won that because you did something that was practical with innovation. Could you maybe share for our audience, maybe what are some of those use cases that might be where we can implement effective innovation?
We'll take a simple use case where there's available technology now, and that's using artificial intelligence, some machine learning to solve a problem. And there, you're absolutely right. The use case, the business case it drives what you're going to do with AI. So let's say you're in the supply chain space and you want to use AI to discover ordering patterns so that you can stock the order inventory correctly. Or you're in a bank and you want to understand transactional patterns so you could perhaps predict your load in your infrastructure. Those are totally varied and somewhat simple cases, but the idea that you start with the business case. What's the problem we're trying to solve? If I had this, that's the other way to look at it. If I had this, what would it get me? And you should always be mindful of that. So the other side of that is we flew drones in a warehouse. We were some of the first people to ever fly drones indoors to try and do it in a commercial scale, right? So we flew drones to make sure we didn't hit the ceiling and all that stuff. And then we're saying, well, what we wanted to do with the drones was count inventory in this giant warehouse, right? 1 million square feet of warehouse, and we'll use drones to count the inventory. And one of the guys said, this is really hard. These drones don't fly very straight and all that stuff. What if we just put all the cameras on a pole and mount the pole to a golf cart and drive up and down the warehouse? He said, it'd be easier and cheaper. And he said, and it solves the business case. We're counting automatically with cameras. And everyone sat back and said, oh, well, then let's go back to the business case. So as you go through innovation, you may find that your whiz-bang drone solution that you're hoping would work is possibly solved by something quite a bit simpler. And if you go to your business case, that will get you to the answer.
Kevin, I love that example. The way you were solving the problem could have just been done maybe in a different way. I like that example.
So again, when we think about innovation, the next thing that I always talk about is start small. This is for the senior leaders or other leaders. You really only need a team of 2, 3, 4 people who are highly committed. Talked about that curiosity factor we just had to the solution, and let them go and try and figure it out. Right? Give it to them as kind of an extra project, and the passion that they have and the curiosity they have will carry you to some result where you can say, this will work, or no, like the drones, it wasn't quite ready. And we had to kind of regroup and say, well, what are we trying to solve here? I always counsel, people say, well, we're not big enough. We're not a giant multinational corporation with billions in revenue. The answer is you need 3 or 4 committed people. Go try it. And you can do that if you're a small team in a startup. I mean, George, you've done startups. You know what kind of energy that's like. Or in a big company, hey, I'm just going to carve out 3 people who are super passionate and launch them at the problem. So always start small and make sure you have the passionate people, and you'll get some interesting results.
That's great sharing. Thank you so much.
Just in summary, to re-emphasize my earlier point is, if you're going to do innovation and emerging technology, commit yourself to being curious, right? Go study, go learn, and seek that interesting new thing that will get you to a place that you're not right now. And that I can't stress that enough, and then try and project that passion to other people, because they'll then find their own curiosity. It'll all be better for all of us.
Kevin, thank you so much. Those were great sharings. I like the way you concluded with being curious. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing today. I know that your wisdom today will help impact others in their learnings. Thank you again, Kevin.